Good evening, everyone. You are watching the evening show by Explicit. To begin with, the India Bangladesh Water Treaty is set to expire in 2026, and the negotiations are on the brink. Both countries signed this treaty in 1996 when their cooperation was stronger than the contention. India constructed a large barrage to divert Ganga water into the Hooghly River, ensuring the continued operation of the Kolkata port. Meanwhile, Bangladesh receives a minimum amount of water during the dry season, which is crucial for agriculture, primarily rice cultivation, fisheries, and daily life. The treaty specifically provided an allocation schedule for the dry season flow from January to May. When the water levels are low, say 70,000 cusecs or less, then in that case, the two countries will split the water equally. Coming to the treaty negotiation itself, the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Yunus wants this treaty to be continued as per the international norms, but India is reluctant to sign it this time because of country's needs. West Bengal and Bihar have a lot of water scarcity areas, and with climate change increasing, India needs more water, making the government rethink the treaty. However, this is not the sole case. After the Pahalgam attack in 2025, the treaty is completely off the table. But there's more. When a country burns a Hindu minority so painfully, knowing that India is obviously Hindustan, or when you talk to cut the Seven Sisters with China, even worse, when you plan to join the Pakistan Brotherhood to destabilize India, think, are you really winning the negotiations? Coming to the International Water Treaty, did the Modi government really hear them in the Indus Water Treaty? If this treaty doesn't go well, imagine what is going to happen. History will repeat itself, but this time a lot faster, eventually collapsing your government. Moving on to the Venezuela's leader capture, the US strike against Venezuela was mainly because of four main reasons. The first one that the US claims is that the state was engaged in the state sponsored drug trafficking through its support of the notorious gangs, but the US intelligence has confirmed just last year in a report that Maduro has nothing to do with these gangs. The second reason of the US that claims is the economic collapse and repression under the Maduro regime, which of course has nothing to do with the USA. But the most crucial aspect is that the Venezuela has always been a good friend with China and Russia, who are the USA's foes. It's as if someone is against the USA and so the Almighty has to do something about it. Lastly, it's about the oil reserves of 303 million barrels. And apparently, even after the new Venezuela's interim president took an oath, the USA has put the country into an oil quarantine state. That actually tells us that the politicians of the USA have taken so many resources and money on their side because, come on, tell me, if inflation reports of the country are out, the job crisis remains, you have got to have a side drama to shift the focus of the Americans to a new discussion. One thing that America needs to understand is that you can't take over the oil reserves of a different country. When President Trump gave a statement that the president will face consequences, she replied that she'll defend the natural resources of the country. But wait, that's not all. The Republicans gave a grand entry to Maduro for the New York court, a city with Mamdani being the mayor, still opposing the arrest, which is, of course, against humanity. This gets interesting here because Mamdani just indulged himself in the Indian politics too through Umar Khalid's bail demand. But let me tell you that the Supreme Court of India has rejected the plea again. This tells us one thing. Mamdani should really focus on the money now because finally he has a new career before being lost for so long instead of getting something into he isn't good at. Now that the USA has done so much in a few months, like fueling the Russia Ukraine war, trying to pick out the oil reserves of Venezuela, and giving indirect intelligence to Ukraine for Russia's president home attack, it now warns India of greater tariffs. Again, let me ask you, who really is getting affected by those tariffs? Let your inflation reports decide that. When you really have this taste of corruption, you might not leave jewelry which India delivers, or you might not leave behind the fine and delicate textiles of India. Or let's take the basics like coffee and rice. Even your tariff wars with India are increasing India's exports to the US. Maybe just find a better way. Or if you are really willing to cooperate, PM Narendra Modi is a tough man. So just find a better way diplomatically. Moving on to the UK and France joint attacks on the ISIS camps of Syria. On Saturday evening, the British and French air forces conducted a joint operation against the Islamic State group in Syria, hitting the underground facility in the north of Palmyra. According to the Britain's defense ministry, the strike was on the location where IS has stored weapons and explosives. While the world is revolving with the new conflicts, the two countries decided to attack so that the ISIS doesn't regain the strength to harm the world. Bang up to the elephant for this operation, but what about the immigration policies of Europe, which are leading ISIS to be one among them?
Constitution has often felt like an immigrant in Manipur, given the turbulence between the state's tribes and their areas. Following this fatuous attitude, the Kuki Alliance for Nampi Awakening movement sent letters to the United Nations and the US Embassy in Delhi against the recent order by the National Green Tribunal of Kolkata to seize the use of a forest land to construct Tiger Road. The tribe argues this order, stating the humanitarian crisis. They say, and I quote, loss of access to national highways and the absence of viable alternatives, unquote, in the presence of an emergency. One thing that I do not understand is why the UN and the USA, when the two parties are contrary to the Venezuelan emergency, and also when the latter was previously accused by former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to influence this area and hold its military presence there. As per her, that's why she was ousted. And if this is all true, what benefit do these organizations have here? Are you planning for another 20th century inspired famine or a takeover in general? Have you forgotten how it ended the last time? To the Kuki tribes, you have the Supreme Court to take up this issue. It is not that you don't have access to that. And if you're not using the highway and the Metis claim that they aren't either, why did Nitin Gadkari spend these funds? It's another question on his diary, I guess, that needs to be answered. Still, I think the animals got lucky to have concrete for their houses and for their roots. Speaking of the roots, the USA has a new visa policy screaming the desperate state of the nation. The Trump administration previously in September 2025 necessitated a payment of $100,000 for an H1B visa. It is almost like treating a prison facility like an overpriced hotel, given the rise in far-right extremism and journalists like Matt Fournier pushing for, quote, deport every Indian, unquote, for, quote, harmony in America, unquote. Should I call him a journalist, though, when he does not acknowledge how Indian Americans are literally drafting laws for the American population through their government roles, running fortune companies, and are indirectly referred to as skilled by the administration through the new H1B reform? All opinions kept aside, the new H1B indeed follows an American dream, stealing money from others, making them work, and sitting like crocs doing nothing. But will it be fulfilled given the Epstein Island is under seizure and Trump needs a new island? Getting back to the national affairs, we have another Trump in the city. The only difference is that he never became the leader of the country. Rahul Gandhi is visiting Vietnam for yet another failed meeting, an anti-India group. The man is so upset about losing the elections that he has started deluding himself with the idea of going against the whole nation. I suppose Sonia didn't explain the definition of elections to him. Rahul, don't worry. It's no longer the old India. We have a fast internet connection and you can literally Google it. And for wooden spoons like you, we have another tool as well, ChatGPT. Speaking of ChatGPT, the opposition in Maharashtra might have used it for the BMC elections, helping the BJP sweep the seats with complete success. Well, the success of the citizens will be seen when the elected members actually work. But what fascinates me the most about this election is the BJP swept 44 seats, having fought unopposed. Following this win, the Thakres don't seem happy and are calling for the cancellation of elections in wards where there was no opponent. Uddhav Thackeray called it mobocracy. I call it tit for tat. I mean, you did your mischiefs with your brother against the Hindi speakers in Maharashtra. In the end, it's politics. One who wins is the one who ends up ruling, unless Rahul's failed campaign of inciting violence in the country through Gen Z works. So in general, the election was Mahayuti versus Islamic Party. I mean, almost, with Mahayuti winning 68 out of 69 seats. For the last news of the day, we have a new propaganda on the internet with so-called intellectuals calling Home Minister's claim of TMC tampering with the Bengal boundary a false statement. They argue that the center has all the power to build a boundary, an international one, and the state doesn't play a role. Here's a lesson. Though the Article 3 gives the center rights for the international boundary, the state still has to cooperate. And without that, the work cannot be completed on time.